That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over Fort Bragg, casting long shadows across the dew-slicked parade ground. Sergeant Elena Vasquez stood at attention, her boots planted firmly on the packed earth, the faint scent of pine from the surrounding Carolina woods mingling with the sharp tang of gun oil from the armory. At her side, Rex, her German shepherd partner, sat rigid, his black and tan coat gleaming under the early light, ears perked forward like radar dishes. The K9 unit's morning drill was underway, a symphony of clipped commands and echoing barks that reinforced the unbreakable chain of command. "Handler, advance!" Lieutenant Marcus Hale barked from the observation platform, his voice cutting through the humid air like a knife. Hale was a veteran of 2 deployments, his frame lean and unyielding, the bars on his collar a reminder of the hierarchy that bound them all. Elena snapped a salute, her gloved hand precise, then gave Rex the signal, a subtle tap on his harness. The dog moved forward in perfect sync, navigating the obstacle course. Low crawls under barbed wire, leaps over simulated walls, his paws thudding softly against the sand-filled barriers. Around them, the unit formed a disciplined square, 20 handlers and their canine partners. From Belgian Malinois to Labrador retrievers, all trained for detection and patrol. This was the 82nd Airborne's K9 detachment, a tight-knit group where loyalty wasn't just a word. It was etched in every shared breath, every midnight watch. Elena had been with Rex for 3 years, since he'd come stateside from a breeder in Germany. Their bond was silent, forged in the quiet hours of grooming and repetition, where a glance could convey more than orders ever could. She felt his steady presence now, a counterweight to the weight of her own responsibilities. The drill progressed without flaw. Handlers called out clearances, "Clear on scent! Perimeter secure!" Radios crackled faintly from the command tent, monitoring vital signs and environmental hazards. Fort Bragg sprawled across 160 0 acres, a self-contained world of barracks, ranges and family housing, where soldiers balanced the rigors of duty with the fragile normalcy of home. Elena's own quarters were a short drive away, shared with her husband, a logistics sergeant and their young son, but today her focus was absolute. Distractions had no place here. As the unit rotated for the next phase, scent detection in a mock vehicle search, Hale stepped down from the platform, his boots crunching on gravel. "Vasquez, your team's up. Simulate a high-threat entry. Rex leads." Elena nodded, clipping the leash short for control. They approached the line of battered Humvees and civilian sedans used for training, parked in a sun-baked lot adjacent to the family housing area. The air shimmered with heat, even at this hour, the blacktop radiating warmth like a griddle. Rex's nose twitched first, a subtle flaring of nostrils that Elena knew instinctively. He wasn't alerting to the planted narcotics hidden in the lead vehicle. This was something else. The dog pulled toward a dusty SUV at the edge of the lot, one that didn't belong to the drill props. It was a civilian car, parked haphazardly near the base daycare pickup zone, windows rolled up tight against the morning humidity. Elena's pulse quickened, but she held the leash firm. "Easy, boy," she murmured, her voice low and steady, the way she'd trained him to respond to anomalies without panic. From across the lot, a child's voice pierced the routine, a high, frantic yell that shattered the morning calm. "Mom, she can't breathe! Help!" A boy, no older than 8, bolted from the shade of a nearby oak, his small face flushed, pointing wildly at the SUV. Soldiers paused mid-drill, heads turning, but Hale's command rang out sharp. "Hold positions! This is not part of the exercise. Vasquez, stand down." Elena froze, her hand tightening on Rex's lead. The boy, she recognized him vaguely as the son of a staff sergeant in the motor pool, skidded to a halt by the vehicle, pounding on the window. Inside, Through the tinted glass, Elena glimpsed a shape. A toddler slumped in a car seat, face pressed against the straps, skin pale and slick with sweat. The engine was off. The interior a greenhouse under the relentless sun, overheated, forgotten. "Rex, search," Elena ordered instinctively, overriding the lieutenant's call. The dog surged forward, nose to the ground, circling the vehicle with urgent sniffs. His training kicked in, detecting human distress, the faint chemical shift of panic sweat and labored breath. He barked once, sharp and insistent. Pawing at the door, the boy wailed louder, "She's my sister, she can't breathe." Hale strode over, his face hardening. "Sergeant, I said stand down. We don't interfere with civilian matters without protocol. Call base security, now." But Elena was already moving, keys from her belt, standard issue for emergency access, jangling as she approached the locked door. The chain of command screamed in her mind, obedience first, always. Yet Rex's low whine pulled at her, a mirror to the child's cries. This wasn't a drill. This was life slipping away in the heat. The unit watched, frozen in formation, radios silent for the first time that morning. Elena's hand hovered over the lock, the weight of eyes on her back, like the desert sun she'd known in Kandahar. One twist, and she'd cross the line. Duty demanded procedure, conscience demanded action. The toddler's tiny chest rose and fell in shallow hitches, visible now through the glass. Rex pressed against her leg, eyes locked on hers, waiting for the word that would redefine everything. Elena's fingers closed around the key, the metal cool against her palm despite the rising heat. She twisted it into the lock with a deliberate click, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the sudden hush of the lot. The door swung open, unleashing a wave of stifling air, thick with the metallic tang of trapped humidity and the faint, acrid edge of fear sweat. Rex darted in first, his paws scrabbling on the vinyl floor mat, nose burrowing toward the back seat where the toddler lay limp, her small body slick and unresponsive, chest fluttering in shallow, ragged breaths. "Ma'am, stay back," Elena said to the gathering onlookers, her voice steady but edged with command, the handler's protocol kicking in even as she defied it. She unbuckled the child with practiced efficiency. 2 years of pediatric first aid drills in the field hospital back home, lifting her free and cradling her against her uniform, the girl's damp curls sticking to Eleanor's collar. "Base medic, this is K9 Unit 3. We have a heat distress in family housing lot. Child, approximately 2 years old. Request immediate evac." The radio on her shoulder crackled to life, dispatch responding with clipped urgency. "Copy 3, ambulance en route, ETA 3 mics, secure the scene." Elena pressed 2 fingers to the toddler's neck, feeling the thready pulse, then tilted her head back gently, clearing the airway as cool morning air rushed in. The girl gasped, a weak cough escaping her lips, color creeping back into her cheeks like dawn breaking over the pines. Rex sat at Elena's feet, whining softly, his dark eyes fixed on the child as if willing strength into her. Lieutenant Hale loomed in the doorway, his jaw set like granite, arms crossed over his chest plate. "Sergeant Vasquez, step away. You've just breached protocol, unauthorized entry into a civilian vehicle. This will be reported up the chain." His tone was formal, devoid of anger, but the steel in it carried the weight of consequence. Around them, the unit had broken formation, handlers murmuring into radios, their dogs shifting uneasily on leashes. The boy's father, Staff Sergeant Ramirez, pushed through the crowd, his face ashen, uniform disheveled from whatever errand had pulled him away that morning. "Jesus, Mia!" Ramirez choked out, dropping to his knees beside Elena. He reached for his daughter, hands trembling as he took her from Elena's arms, the girl's eyelids fluttering open to fix on him with hazy recognition. "What happened? I was just... The keys, I thought I locked it after drop-off." His voice cracked, the raw edge of parental terror slicing through the disciplined air. The boy clung to his father's leg, tears streaking his dust-smeared face. "I told her to wait, Dad. Mom's at work." I didn't know. Eleanor stood, wiping sweat from her brow with the back of her glove, Rex pressing close to her side, his flank warm and reassuring. The ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, cutting through the low hum of idling Humvees and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. She met Hale's gaze squarely, her posture unyielding. "Sir, Rex alerted to distress. Protocol for canine response in potential hazards, Section 4, 2 of the field manual. I acted on that." It was a half-truth. The manual covered threats in operational zones, not base family lots. But in the moment, with the child's life hanging by a thread, semantics felt like a shield. Hale's eyes narrowed, scanning the scene. The open door, the gathering of soldiers, a few parents from the daycare edging closer with wide-eyed concern. "Alert or not, you ignored a direct order. That's insubordination, Vasquez. Report to the command tent after the medics clear the area." He turned to Ramirez, his voice softening fractionally. "Sergeant, we'll handle the investigation. Get your families squared away." Ramirez nodded numbly, holding Mia close as the paramedics arrived, their boots thudding on the asphalt, stretchers unfolding with efficient snaps. As the team loaded the girl, oxygen mask hissing softly over her whimpers, Elena clipped Rex's leash tighter, leading him back toward the drill line. The unit reformed uneasily, commands resuming in low tones, reset positions, continued detection phase. But the rhythm was off, fractured by whispers rippling through the ranks. "Heard the dog found her first." Vasquez jumped the gun, saved the kid though. Rex trotted beside her, his tongue lolling slightly, the adrenaline of the alert still thrumming in his muscles. She scratched behind his ears absently, feeling the rough texture of his fur ground her. Their bond was her anchor, a loyalty that didn't question orders or hesitate at thresholds. In the command tent later, the air was cooler, laced with the scent of stale coffee and printer ink. Major Ellis, the detachment commander, sat behind a metal desk stacked with after-action reports, his silver eagles glinting under the fluorescent lights. Hale stood at attention to one side, recounting the incident in precise detail. Timestamps, positions, the exact wording of his stand-down order. Elena faced them both, Rex lying calmly at her feet, his chest rising and falling in even rhythm. "Vasquez," Ellis said, his voice measured, eyes flicking to the notepad in his hand. "Your record's spotless. 3 commendations for K-9 ops in theater. But this, bypassing chain of command on base? Explain." She straightened, reciting the facts without embellishment. The alert, the visible distress, the child's cries. "Sir, hesitation could have cost a life. Rex's training detected hypoxia before visuals confirmed. I weighed the risk." Ellis leaned back, steepling his fingers. "And if that SUV had been booby-trapped, or the owner hostile, you're not SWAT, Sergeant, you're support." Hale interjected smoothly. "It sets a precedent, sir. Handlers freelancing could undermine unit cohesion." The Major nodded, jotting a note. "Agreed. This goes to JAG for review. Pending that, you're off rotation, administrative duty, and the dog. He'll be reassessed for over-alerting in non-ops environments." Elena's stomach tightened, but she kept her face neutral, saluting crisply. "Understood, sir." As she exited the tent, the midday sun beat down, turning the gravel path into a shimmering haze. Rex padded beside her, oblivious to the scrutiny, his tail giving a single wag at her touch. Word had already spread through the barracks grapevine, texts buzzing on secured phones, low conversations in the mess hall. A few handlers nodded her way as she passed, one murmuring, "Good call, Sarge," under his breath. But others averted their eyes, the invisible lines of loyalty shifting. That evening, in the quiet of her quarters, Elena groomed Rex by the dim light of a single lamp, the brush gliding through his coat in rhythmic strokes. The bass hummed faintly outside, distant rotor wash from a Black Hawk on approach, the muffled laughter of off-duty troops. Her husband, Javier, sat across the room, reviewing logistics manifests, but his glances carried questions. "You did right," he said finally, voice low. "Kid's stable, they say, but Hale's pushing for a formal reprimand." She nodded, focusing on the dog's steady gaze. "Chain's the chain, but Rex doesn't read manuals." The weight of it settled in her chest, not regret, but the quiet certainty that one act had cracked the facade of routine. Tomorrow the investigation would deepen, pulling in witnesses, logs, even Ramirez's statement. And in the ranks, whispers of defiance would grow, testing bonds that held the unit together like the stitches on a field dressing. Rex leaned into her hand, a silent vow amid the gathering storm. The fluorescent hum of the JAG office cut through the stale air like a distant rotor blade, casting stark shadows across the linoleum floor. Sergeant Elena Vasquez sat on a hard plastic chair, her uniform crisp despite the long day. Rex curled at her feet with his head resting on his paws, a quiet sentinel amid the paperwork shuffle. It was mid-morning on the second day after the incident, and the base had settled into an uneasy rhythm. Drills echoing faintly from the ranges, the scent of diesel from passing supply trucks wafting through the open window. But for Elena, the world had narrowed to this room, where every word carried the weight of her career. Captain Laura Kendrick, the JAG officer assigned to the case, reviewed the statements on her desk, her glasses perched low on her nose. She was a compact woman in her 40s, with the no-nonsense bearing of someone who'd prosecuted more than her share of Article 92 violations, failure to obey orders. "Sergeant, walk me through it again, from the lieutenant's stand-down to your entry." Her pen hovered, ready to note discrepancies. Elena recounted it methodically, her voice even, drawing on the precision drilled into her since basic. The boy's cry slicing the air, Rex's alert pulling like an invisible tether, the child's labored breaths fogging the glass. "Sir, ma'am, the delay for security would have been 4 minutes minimum. Rex's detection confirmed immediate threat. I prioritized life over procedure." Rex shifted slightly, his ear twitching at her tone, as if sensing the undercurrent of defense. Kendrick nodded, flipping to Ramirez's deposition. "Staff Sergeant Ramirez corroborates the urgency. Says the girl, Mia, was unresponsive when you reached her. Doctors at the base clinic confirm heat stroke, severe but reversible. Your intervention likely prevented coma." She paused, eyes meeting Elena's. "But Lieutenant Hale's report emphasizes the breach. Unauthorized access, potential liability for the vehicle owner. The mother, civilian contractor on base, claims distress over privacy invasion." Elena kept her gaze forward, hands clasped in her lap. The mother, Carla Ramirez, had arrived at the clinic the night before, tear-streaked and apologetic, explaining a rushed shift change at the commissary. But gratitude had soured into worry over the spectacle in the lot, neighbors snapping photos on their phones before security cleared the area. "Understood, ma'am. My intent was extraction, not exposure." Across the base, in the K9 kennels, the unit's morning briefing unfolded under a canvas awning, the air thick with the earthy musk of damp fur and kibble. Lieutenant Hale addressed the handlers, his stance rigid, clipboard in hand. "Vasquez is sidelined pending review. No discussion of the incident. Focus on ops. We're short a team. Rotations adjust accordingly." Murmurs rippled through the group, dogs sensing the tension in their partners' stiff postures. Private First Class Thomas Ruiz, a young handler with a Labrador named Scout, exchanged a glance with his neighbor. Ruiz had been on the perimeter that morning, witnessing Rex's bark cut through the drill like a flare. After the brief, Ruiz lingered by the water troughs, filling Scout's bowl with a metallic slosh. "Sarge made the call," he said quietly to no one in particular, as Hale walked away. Another handler, Corporal Lena Torres, nodded, clipping her Malinois' lead. "Rex smelled it first. if we wait for papers every time." Her words trailed off as a staff sergeant from Internal Affairs approached, notepad out, pulling handlers aside one by one for statements. The investigation was widening, threads pulling at the unit's seams. By afternoon, Elena reported to administrative duty in the operations shack, a squat building humming with the clack of keyboards and the low buzz of encrypted comms. Her task, inventorying gear, harnesses, leashes, scent kits, stacked in metal bins that smelled of leather polish and faint dog shampoo. Rex lay nearby, gnawing a rubber Kong with subdued focus, his usual energy muted by the confinement. Javier had texted earlier, "Holding steady at motor pool. Mia's home, pink again, hang in." But the isolation gnawed at her, the routine a thin veil over the scrutiny. Word reached her via a junior clerk slipping in with coffee. Black, no sugar the way she took it. "Heard Ramirez is testifying for you. Says if not for Rex, he'd be planning a funeral." Elena sipped, the bitterness grounding her. Ramirez had stopped by the kennels that morning, his uniform pressed, but eyes shadowed. "Oh, you, Vasquez. Mia's asking for the big dog already." His handshake had been firm, a soldier's gratitude unspoken but ironclad, yet the pushback mounted. Hale convened an informal review in the officers' mess that evening, the room dim with hanging lamps casting pools of light on scarred wooden tables. A half-dozen officers gathered, steam rising from mugs of chow hall stew, the clink of spoons punctuating the discussion. "Precedent matters," Hale stated, voice level over the scrape of chairs. "K9 teams are extensions of command, not independents. Vasquez's action, heroic intent perhaps, but it erodes discipline." Major Ellis, presiding, rubbed his chin, the silver on his shoulders catching the light. "Agreed, but the child's recovery, that's optics. Brass might see it as initiative, not insubordination." Outside, the base cooled under a twilight sky, fireflies winking through the pines like distant signal lights. Eleanor walked Rex along the perimeter path, his paws padding softly on the crushed stone, the leash a loose loop between them. The weight of the day pressed in, the JAG questions, the sideline status, the whispers that followed her like shadows. Rex paused at a chain-link fence, nose lifting to the breeze, carrying scents of grilled rations from the enlisted mess. She knelt, running a hand along his flank, feeling the steady thrum of his heart. "We did it together, boy," she murmured. The words, a private oath in the gathering dusk. But the reckoning was public now. By week's end, a base-wide memo circulated via secure email. Incident review. K9 response protocols under examination. Handlers buzzed in the chow line, voices low over trays of rehydrated potatoes and mystery meat. "They're auditing all alerts," one said, fork pausing mid-air. "What if Rex gets flagged as unreliable?" Ruiz, overhearing, clenched his jaw. Loyalty ran deep in the unit, a current beneath the ranks, and Elena's stand had stirred it. Some seeing valor, others risk. In the Ramirez quarters, a modest duplex with faded curtains, the family gathered around a small table, Mia coloring with crayons, her laughter a fragile melody against the tension. Carla held a mug of tea, steam curling like unanswered questions. "That handler, Vasquez, she broke rules for us." Ramirez nodded, scrolling a tablet with base updates. "And now she's paying. Owe her more than thanks." The boy, Alex, looked up from his drawing of a dog by a car. "Rex saved Mia. He's a hero." Back at the operations shack, Elena logged the last harness, the ledger's pages whispering shut. The door swung open, admitting a gust of night air laced with pine resin. It was Kendrick, briefcase in hand. Preliminary findings, no charges yet. But Hale's recommending retraining for the unit, emphasizing chain limits on K9 autonomy. Elena saluted, Rex rising to sit alert. "Copy, ma'am. When do I return to rotation?" Soon, if Ramirez's endorsement holds, he's pushing for commendation. Kendrick's eyes softened fractionally. This could shift protocols, Sergeant. Make space for instinct in the manual. As she left, Elena exhaled, clipping Rex's lead for the walk home. The path wound past lit barracks, windows glowing with the soft hum of evening routines, soldiers reviewing maps, families sharing meals. But for her, the horizon held uncertainty. The moral line she'd crossed now, a fault line rippling outward. In the quiet hours, as stars pricked the Carolina sky, Elena sensed the change. Not just in her, but in the unit's pulse. Rex trotted beside her, unwavering, his loyalty a beacon against the institutional tide. The defiance had ignited something, a quiet call for balance between orders and the lives they guarded. And as the base settled into sleep, the first echoes of reform stirred in the ranks, testing the bonds that defined them all. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. The base command center thrummed with the low pulse of fluorescent lights and the intermittent beep of secure terminals, a concrete bunker buried under layers of protocol and red tape. Sergeant Elena Vasquez stood at ease in the briefing room, her boots aligned precisely on the worn tile. Rex seated motionless beside her, his flanks rising and falling in measured rhythm. It was the fourth day since the incident, and the air carried the faint metallic scent of recycled ventilation mixed with the sharper edge of fresh printed forms. Major Ellis presided from the head of the table, his uniform jacket unbuttoned at the collar, a rare concession to the room's stuffiness. Flanking him were Lieutenant Hale, arms folded across his chest, and Captain Kendrick from JAG, her laptop open to a grid of witness timelines. "Vasquez," Ellis began, his voice gravelly from years of field commands, "we're convening this preliminary board to assess the chain breach. Full tribunal if needed, but let's keep it internal for now." He gestured to the chairs, but Elena remained standing, a handler's habit, alert, ready. Rex's ears flicked toward the Major, attuned to the subtle shifts in tone that humans often missed. The room held a half-dozen officers, detachment leads, a rep from base security, and the internal affairs sergeant scribbling notes on a legal pad. No civilians, but the Ramirez family's shadow loomed in every deposition referenced. Elena nodded crisply. "Yes, sir." She recounted the sequence again, her words clipped and factual. The drill's pivot to vehicle search, Rex's unsolicited alert pulling toward the SUV, the boy's frantic yell cutting through the formation like shrapnel. The child was visible, pale, unresponsive. Rex confirmed distress via scent markers, elevated cortisol, hypoxia indicators. Entry took 12 seconds. She avoided embellishment, sticking to observables, but her hand rested lightly on Rex's head, feeling the warmth of his fur steady her pulse. Hale leaned forward, his pen tapping the table in a steady cadence. 12 seconds from a direct order to stand down. That's not assessment. That's override. Section 15 of the K9 Ops Manual. Handlers defer to command in non-combat zones. This lot borders family housing. Civilian interplay requires clearance. His gaze bored into her, the weight of unit discipline etched in his furrowed brow. Kendrick interjected mildly, scrolling her screen. "However, ma'am, Sergeant, the manual's ambiguity on spontaneous alerts in base environs. Rex's certification includes human rescue protocols from your Kandahar rotations. Precedent from 18 incident at Camp Lejeune. A Malinois handler entered a barracks without order for a suicide watch. Ruled justified." The room murmured, chairs creaking as officers shifted. Ellis steepled his fingers, eyes on Elena. "Your bond with the dog, commendable, but it can't supersede the chain. What if every handler interprets alert as carte blanche?" Elena met his stare evenly. "Sir, the chain protects lives. Rex doesn't distinguish zones, he detects threats. Delaying for protocol risked the child's vitals. Temps hit 108 in under 10 minutes, per clinic logs. Rex whined softly, a low vibration against her leg, sensing the scrutiny like a patrol sensing ambush. Outside, the afternoon sun baked the parade ground, heat waves distorting the distant forms of trainees, double timing in formation, their cadenced chants drifting faintly through the vents. In the K9 kennels, the unit's handlers wrapped a midday rotation, leashes snapping as dogs were walked post-exercise. Private Ruiz hosed down Scout's paws, the water sluicing over blacktop in rhythmic splashes, while Corporal Torres brushed her Malinois under the awning's shade. "Boards grilling Vasquez now," Ruiz said, voice low, wiping sweat from his brow with a forearm. "Hale's got the manual out like a Bible." Torres glanced toward the command center's silhouette against the horizon. "Ramirez is testifying after, says Rex earned a medal, not a muzzle." A few nodded, but tension laced the air, loyalty fracturing along invisible lines, some fearing reprisal for speaking out. The door to the Ramirez quarters swung open to the scent of chamomile tea and baby powder, Carla Ramirez ushering in the internal affairs team with a tight smile. Mia played on a blanket in the corner, stacking blocks with deliberate wobbles, her cheeks still faintly flushed from recovery. Alex hovered nearby, clutching a sketchpad where he'd drawn Rex in heroic profile. Tongue out, nose to the ground. Staff Sergeant Ramirez stood at attention in his civvies, a plain polo stretched over his frame, but his posture screamed soldier. "Appreciate you coming here," he said to the investigators. Two captains with clipboards and a recorder humming on the coffee table. "Easier on the kids." One captain, a wiry woman with a West Point ring, nodded. "We need your full account, Sergeant, from drop-off to the handler's intervention." Ramirez sat, the couch springs groaning under him, and laid it out, the hurried morning rush. Keys pocketed after buckling Mia in, a forgotten errand pulling him to the motor pool. "I thought the AC was on timer." "Heat climb fast," Doc said. "Another 5 minutes, and—" His voice trailed, jaw tightening. Carla placed a hand on his knee, her wedding band catching the light. "Elena, Sergeant Vasquez, got her out. Rex barked before we even saw. If not for them." Mia looked up, babbling, "Doggy!" and clapping, the innocence shattering the room's gravity. Back in the briefing room, the board recessed for Ramirez's remote feed, the screen flickering to life on Ellis's terminal. The sergeant's face filled the frame, steady despite the home backdrop. "Sirs, ma'ams, I owe Vasquez and Rex my daughter's life. Protocol saved the drill. Instinct saved Mia. Recommend we update it, not punish the ones who use it." Hale's pen stopped tapping, his expression unchanging. But a muscle twitched in his cheek. Kendrick typed rapidly, the keys clicking like Morse code. "Noted, this bolsters the compassion clause in Article 92 interpretations." As the feed cut, Ellis addressed the room. "Vasquez, you're reinstated to light duty pending final review, but the unit trains on this, scenarios blending ops and base civils. Hale, oversee it." Elena saluted, relief coiling tight in her chest, masked by discipline. "Understood, sir." Rex rose as she turned, padding silently, his nails clicking on the tile, a sound of normalcy amid the storm. Word spread like radio chatter through the barracks by evening chow, trays clattering in the mess hall under hanging bulbs that cast long shadows. Handlers clustered at a corner table, steam rising from vats of chili and cornbread, voices hushed over plastic forks. Board leaned her way. "Ramirez sealed it," Ruiz said, dipping a spoon into his bowl. Torres exhaled, her Malinois lead coiled on her lap. "But Hale's drill tomorrow? Expect hypotheticals. Alert in a no-go zone. What's your move?" Nods rippled, the group's cohesion tested but holding. Elena's stand a quiet catalyst. She joined them late, tray in hand, Rex settling under the table with a contented huff. Javier had called earlier from the motor pool. "Proud of you." Mia drew Rex a thank you, pause and all. Elena slid into a seat, the metal cold against her thighs. "Back on rotation soon," she said simply. No boast, just fact. Ruiz raised his mug of watered-down Kool-Aid. "To the nose that knows." Laughter murmured, brief and restrained, but it eased the knot in her gut. Night fell over Fort Bragg, with the soft patter of rain on tent flies, the air cooling to a misty chill that carried the scent of wet earth and pine. Elena walked Rex along the wooded trail behind the kennels, his silhouette dark against the sodium lamps, puddles reflecting fragmented stars. The investigation's public face had emerged, memos to brass, whispers to families, but the personal toll lingered. Hale's sidelong glances in briefings, the subtle distance from some ranks. Yet Ramirez's words echoed, a bridge across the divide. In her quarters, she reviewed the updated manual draft on her tablet, the screen's glow illuminating Rex's watchful eyes. Changes proposed. Expanded K9 alert authority and base hazards, instinct codified without chaos. One act, rippling outward, forcing the system to bend toward the lives it served. Rex nudged her hand, demanding a scratch, his trust absolute. Elena complied, the rhythm soothing as thunder rumbled distant, a reminder that storms passed, leaving ground firmer for what followed. The rain had cleared by dawn, leaving Fort Bragg's grounds slick and gleaming under a pale sky, the air heavy with the scent of wet pine needles and churned earth from overnight patrols. Sergeant Elena Vasquez reported to the K9 training yard at 600 sharp, her boots sinking slightly into the muddied grass as she clipped Rex's lead to the post. Light duty meant observation only, no handling, no alerts. But the unit's eyes followed her like shadows on a range. Lieutenant Hale conducted the session from the elevated platform, his voice carrying over the barks and splashes of dogs, navigating flooded obstacles, water sheeting off their coats in silvery arcs. Handlers emphasized chain integration. "Alert confirmed, then defer," Hale called, his silhouette crisp against the rising sun. The group, 18 teams now, with Elena's slot filled by a temporary reassignment, moved in sync, leashes taut, commands snapping like dry branches. Rex sat alert beside her, nose twitching at the familiar routines, but Elena kept her hand still, the restraint a quiet ache. Whispers from the sidelines reached her, Ruiz murmuring to Torres about the board's lean toward leniency. But Hale's new drills felt like a pointed reminder, scenarios laced with hypotheticals that mirrored the incident too closely. By 0800, the yard emptied for rotation, handlers towing their partners toward the kennels, paws leaving muddy prints on the concrete path. Elena lingered to hose down gear, the water's cold rush grounding her amid the steam rising from sun-warmed puddles. That's when the civilian arrived. Carla Ramirez, in khakis from her commissary shift, her face drawn under a baseball cap, Alex trailing behind with a backpack slung over one shoulder. "Sergeant Vasquez?" Carla's voice was tentative, laced with the hesitation of someone navigating ranks without a uniform. Elena straightened, wiping her hands on a rag, Rex rising to greet them with a soft tail wag. "Ma'am," Eleanor replied, saluting informally, her posture snapping to respect. Alex beamed at Rex, dropping to one knee to offer a treat from his pocket, jerky, pilfered from home. "He remembers you," the boy said, voice bright as Rex sniffed and accepted it gently. Carla glanced around, ensuring no officers loomed, then stepped closer. We wanted to thank you properly. Mia's back in daycare, no lasting effects, but the investigators, they asked about privacy again. I didn't mean to complicate things." Elena nodded, folding the rag precisely. "No complication, ma'am, just doing the job." But Carla's eyes held more, a flicker of conflict. The base paper ran a blurb, "K9 saves tot in lot, photos even. Hale's team cleared the area, but phones were out. Now families are talking and commands fielding calls from higher. The words hung, a revelation cracking the controlled facade. Elena's pulse quickened. The incident, once contained, had leaked into the public stream. Witness statements turning to civilian buzz, the chain's grip loosening under scrutiny. Word amplified by midday, echoing through the operations center where Elena logged observation notes on a tablet. The screen's glow reflecting off polished desks. A cluster of clerks huddled by the coffee urn, voices low over steaming mugs. Brass got wind, won a full brief by 1400. Ramirez family stories going viral on secure forums. Elena kept her focus on the entries, harness inspections, alert logs, but the air thickened, radios crackling with unusual traffic from the commander's office. Rex lay under her chair, his breathing even, but his ears perked at the rising tension, a mirror to her own guarded calm. The public reckoning unfolded in the base theater that afternoon, a cavernous space usually reserved for safety briefings and morale films, its rows of folding chairs half filled with witnesses, handlers from the unit, security personnel, a handful of family advocates, and media liaisons from the post's public affairs office. Overhead projectors hummed, casting timelines on a pull-down screen, timestamps from the drill, Rex's alert notation, the 12-second breach. Major Ellis opened the session, his voice amplified through tinny speakers, the room smelling of industrial cleaner and faint popcorn residue from last week's movie night. This informal hearing addresses protocol integration in civilian-adjacent operations, Ellis stated, standing at the podium, his eagles catching the light. No judgments today, input for reform. Lieutenant Hale testified first, his presentation methodical. Slides detailing chain-of-command flowcharts, emphasis on the stand-down's rationale. Deferral prevents chaos, he concluded, gaze sweeping the room, lingering on Elena in the third row, Rex at her side with paws tucked neatly. Questions followed from the panel, 2 colonels and a JAG rep, probing risks, liability, escalation in mixed zones. Then Ramirez took the stand, uniform pressed, his presence drawing nods from the enlisted section. He spoke without notes, voice steady over the microphone's faint feedback. Sirs, that morning, protocol would have waited for a call. Mia wouldn't have. Sergeant Vasquez and Rex bridged that gap. Scent detection before visuals, entry before collapse. As a father and a soldier, I attest, instinct saved us. Murmurs rippled through the audience. A handler in the back, shifting uncomfortably. But Alex, seated with Carla in the civilian block, clapped once before his mother hushed him. The boy's sketch pad lay open on his lap, Rex immortalized in pencil strokes. Elena was called next, rising with measured steps to the front, Rex trailing on a loose lead, his nails clicking softly on the scuffed stage. The panel's eyes assessed her, the unyielding posture, the dog's unwavering shadow. Sergeant, elaborate on the alert's specificity, one colonel prompted, a grizzled veteran with deployment stripes on his sleeve. Elena faced the microphone, her reflection distorted in the podium's brass. Sir, Rex is certified for multi-threat detection, explosives, narcotics, human distress. That day, cortisol markers spiked, unique to hypoxia under heat stress. Manual Section 7.3 allows handler discretion in imminent peril, though base application is grey. Hale interjected from his seat, voice rising fractionally. Grey areas demand clarity, not improvisation. Witnesses confirmed the lot was secure, no active threat. The exchange drew visible tension, chairs creaking as attendees leaned forward, the room's air growing warmer under the lights. A public affairs officer noted it all, tablet glowing, the hearing's visibility a double-edged blade, transparency for reform, exposure for those in the crosshairs. As the session broke for recess, the lobby buzzed, handlers clustering near vending machines, sodas hissing open amid low talk. Ruiz approached Elena, offering a water bottle, condensation beading cold on the plastic. "You held the line up there." Ramirez's words landed hard. Torres joined, her Malinois lead coiled in her fist. But Hale's pushing back, sees it as unit fracture. Elena accepted the water, twisting the cap with a soft crack. Fracture or fix depends on the weld. Rex leaned against her leg, a warm anchor amid the swirl. The hearing resumed with expert input, a K9 trainer from Quantico via video link, her feed crisp on the screen, outlining national protocols. Autonomy in alerts enhances efficacy. 95% success in rescue sims when handlers act on K9 cues without delay. Data scrolled. Graphs of response times, lives preserved. Ellis closed the session at 16:30. The room emptying into the fading light, boots echoing on the tile. Input compiled for command review. Expect directives by week's end. Potential protocol amendments. Outside, the parade ground stretched under a golden haze. Trainees forming up for evening PT, their silhouettes sharp against the horizon. Elena walked Rex toward the kennels, the leash a steady rhythm. But the weight of witnesses lingered, their stares, the recorded words now etched in official logs. Ramirez caught up, falling in step, his stride matching hers. "Held strong in there. Mia wants to visit Rex, therapy dog style." Eleanor nodded, a faint smile breaking her reserve. "Any time, Sergeant. He's family too." In the officer's wardroom that evening, the debrief unfolded over lukewarm coffee and stacked briefings, steam curling from mugs under low-hanging fixtures. Hale paced by the window, overlooking the darkening pines, while Ellis reviewed transcripts. "Public eyes now. PAO's drafting a release. Vasquez's action shines, but we frame it as team effort." Hale stopped, arms crossing. "Agreed, sir. But retraining's key, drills on deferral thresholds." The Major nodded, pen scratching notes. "And commendation for the dog? Brass is open. Sets a tone." Across base, in the family housing lots, Carla gathered neighbors on a porch, the air cooling with the scent of charcoal from grills firing up. "That handler risked her stripes for my girl. We write letters, support the change." Nods circled, phones lighting up with drafts to command. The revelation had spread, a quiet wave cresting toward institutional response, not just investigation, but adaptation. Elena's defiance, the spark illuminating cracks in the rigid frame. As night deepened, Elena groomed Rex in the kennel bay, brush gliding through his coat, the rhythmic strokes echoing softly off cinderblock walls. The hearing's echoes faded, but their ripple promised transformation, duty refined by conscience, loyalty codified in the manual's margins. Rex met her gaze, eyes steady in the dim light, their bond the unyielding core amid the shifting ranks. The first light of dawn filtered through the chain-link fence of the K9 training yard, casting elongated shadows across the dew-kissed grass and turning the puddles from last night's rain into shimmering mirrors. Sergeant Elena Vasquez arrived early, her boots leaving faint imprints in the soft earth as she unclipped Rex's lead, allowing him to sniff the perimeter with measured circles. The air held a crisp edge, laced with the damp scent of pine and the faint, underlying musk of the kennels nearby. Light duty had evolved into supervised drills under Lieutenant Hale's watchful eye, a compromise from the hearing's afterglow, observation laced with subtle tests of restraint. Hale assembled the unit at 5:30, his voice cutting through the morning chill like a field whistle. "Today, we integrate the new scenarios. Alerts in mixed zones. Confirm, then defer. No exceptions." The handlers formed up, leashes taut, dogs sitting in precise alignment, Malinois ears pricked, labs' tails still. Elena positioned herself at the edge, Rex's flank brushing her leg, his warmth a steady counter to the cool breeze rustling the pines. Ruiz nodded her way from across the line, his Labrador scout shifting impatiently while Torres adjusted her harness with quick, efficient tugs. The drill commenced with a simulated family housing breach, a parked sedan rigged with distress mannequins, heat lamps simulating midday build-up. Handlers advanced in pairs, commands barked in low tones. Search, alert on scent. Rex's nose lifted instinctively as Elena's team approached, but she held the lead firm, murmuring, "Stand by!" Her voice a thread of discipline over the dog's subtle whine. Hale circled the yard, clipboard in hand, his boots crunching gravel. "Vasquez, observe only. Note the protocol flow." She complied, logging each step on her notepad. The radio call to security, the measured entry after clearance, the extraction timed to the second. Midway through, a real anomaly disrupted the rhythm. A civilian jogger veered too close to the perimeter, phone in hand, snapping photos of the dogs mid-drill. Security waved him back, but the flash of the camera sparked murmurs. Echoes of the incident's leaked images, now circulating beyond base firewalls. Hale halted the exercise, his face tightening. Secure the line, no distractions. Elena felt Rex tense, his body coiling like a spring, but she kept him grounded, hand light on his collar. The jogger retreated, muttering about public access, but the intrusion lingered, a reminder that the reckoning had breached the gates. By 0900, the yard cleared for debrief in the operations shack, a squat building where the air hummed with the whir of fans and the sharp scent of marker ink on whiteboards. Ellis joined via video from Division HQ, his feed crisp on the central screen, the room's folding chairs filled with the unit's core. "Amendments incoming," he announced, his gravelly tone amplified. K9 protocols updated. Handlers authorized for immediate action on confirmed distress alerts in base environs, pending security ping. Vasquez's case catalyzed it. Instinct codified, chain intact. Hale stood at the board, marking revisions with precise strokes, but his nod was curt, the concession etched in the lines around his eyes. Elena absorbed it silently, Rex at her feet, his paws crossed in repose. Ramirez entered then, summoned for the session, his uniform bearing the faint starch of morning press. "Sirs," he said, saluting the screen, "families on board. Mia's visits to the kennels, therapy certified, builds trust across lines." Carla had coordinated it, her contractor status bridging civilian and military, turning gratitude into structure. Alex trailed him, clutching a laminated drawing of Rex, now pinned to the unit's morale board, a child's tribute amid the procedural weight. The reforms unfolded in layers that afternoon, as base-wide training memos disseminated via encrypted drops, the digital chimes echoing through barracks like reveille. In the mess hall, over trays of steamed rice and grilled chicken, handlers dissected the changes. Expanded discretion clauses, mandatory cross-training with family housing reps, K9 vests marked for civilian encounters. Ruiz forked a bite, voice low. "Hale's running the first sim tomorrow. Your playbook, Sarge," Torres added. "Prevents another grey zone. Rex gets the nod in the manual. Exemplar response." Elena ate methodically, the flavors muted against the knot of vindication uncoiling in her chest. No triumph, just the quiet shift of gears in the machine. Public scrutiny peaked in the public affairs briefing room that evening, a glass-walled space overlooking the parade ground where flags snapped in the wind. A cluster of officers and liaisons reviewed the press release draft, printers whirring softly, the scent of toner mingling with fresh coffee. "Frame it as evolution," the PAO captain directed. Her pen circling phrases, "K9 unit, enhances base safety protocols, following successful intervention." No names beyond ranks, but Elena's action anchored the narrative. Distress detected, life preserved, system strengthened. Hale contributed edits, his input measured. Emphasized training unity. One handler's call, whole units gain. Outside, as twilight deepened the Carolina sky to indigo, Elena led Rex on a perimeter walk, the path crunching underfoot. Distant hum of generators, underscoring the base's pulse. Javier met her at the quarter's edge, his logistics kit slung over one shoulder, eyes reflecting quiet pride. Mia's folks sent a card, whole family signed. Command's eyeing you for instructor lead on the new drills. She nodded, clipping the lead shorter as Rex paused to scent a fence post. Team effort, Rex started it. Their son toddled out, tiny hands reaching for the dog's ears, laughter piercing the dusk, a fragile normalcy reclaimed. In the kennels later, under the soft glow of security lights, Elena reviewed the updated manual with Torres, pages flipping in the quiet bay, the air thick with the comforting aroma of straw and polished leather. Section 7. 3 now reads clear. K9Q trumps delay in peril. Torres noted, her Malinois dozing nearby. Elena traced the text, Rex leaning into her side, his breath warm and even. The violation that tested her had forged this, conscience woven into orders, loyalty extending beyond paws and handlers to the institution's core. Word rippled through the ranks by lights out, texts buzzing in bunks, commendation pending for Rex, a plaque in the detachment hall. Elena slotted for mentorship rotations, guiding juniors on the balance of instinct and protocol. Hale's evening log entry, shared in the officer's chain, acknowledged the pivot. Adaptation strengthens the chain. No apology, but respect in the restraint. As Elena settled into her rack, Rex curling at the foot, the base exhaled, tension easing into resolve. The moral fault line mended with deliberate strokes. The transformation settled like morning mist over the pines, subtle yet pervasive, as the unit absorbed the reforms into daily cadence. Elena's defiance, once a spark in the lot's heat, now illuminated paths forward, duty and compassion aligned, the K9 bond a symbol of quiet, enduring strength. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Elena Vasquez reach those who still believe in honor. The weeks following the protocol amendments unfolded with the steady rhythm of a well-oiled operation, the base's pulse quickening under the weight of change. Sergeant Elena Vasquez stepped into the K9 detachment's morning briefing at 05:30, the air in the canvas-walled pavilion thick with the scent of dew-damp earth and the faint, acrid bite of boot polish from the handler's freshly shined gear. Rex trotted at her heel, his leash a loose loop in her gloved hand, the dog's black and tan coat catching the first slivers of sunlight filtering through the pines. Lieutenant Hale stood at the front, projector humming softly as it cast the updated manual's pages onto a portable screen, the glow illuminating his stern features in sharp relief. "Listen up," Hale began, his voice carrying the clipped authority of command, eyes scanning the formation of 18 handlers and their partners, Malinois straining at leads, labs sitting with ears perked. Section 7, 3 is live. Immediate action on confirmed distress alerts in base zones, with simultaneous security notify. Vasquez demonstrates the first run-through today. Heads turned subtly toward her, nods rippling through the ranks like a silent salute. Ruiz, positioned 2 teams over with Scout, met her gaze with a brief affirming tilt of his chin. Torres, beside him, adjusted her harness with a quiet snap, her Malinois mirroring the group's restrained energy. Elena moved forward, as Hale directed, clipping Rex into the starting gate of the obstacle course, a hybrid setup now, blending patrol barriers with civilian props, a simulated family sedan parked amid sandbag walls, heat lamps rigged to mimic midday build-up. The unit watched from the sidelines, boots planted in the gravel, radios tuned to a low static hum. "Alert simulation! Child in distress," Hale announced, starting the timer with a beep that echoed across the yard. Elena gave Rex the signal, a subtle pat on his flank, and the dog surged ahead, nose low to the ground, weaving through the barriers with fluid precision, paws thudding softly against the packed dirt. His nostrils flared at the prop door, a planted scent vial releasing the chemical markers of hypoxia and sweat, and Rex barked once, sharp and insistent, pawing the handle. Elena followed seamlessly, radioing base security in the same breath. K93, distress alert confirmed. Vehicle breach imminent. Request ping. The response crackled back instantly. Copy 3, cleared for entry. She twisted the prop key, 12 seconds from alert to open door, the action smooth, ingrained. The unit exhaled collectively as she extracted the mannequin, cradling it with the efficiency of field medevac, Rex circling protectively, his whine low and vigilant. Hale called time, his clipboard lowering. Textbook, deference integrated, instinct without override. He met Elena's eyes directly. The acknowledgement unspoken, but clear in the fractional nod, a bridge mended in the chain's unyielding links. The handlers broke for rotation, leashes uncoiling as dogs shook off the morning's tension, water bowls sloshing with metallic splashes. Ruiz fell in beside her as they walked toward the kennels, the path crunching underfoot. Sets the standard, Sarge. Brass is rolling it division-wide, your cue in the playbook. Elena scratched Rex's ears absently, feeling the rough texture ground her. Hours, Ruiz. Units gain. By midday, the reforms rippled beyond the yard, embedding in the base's broader fabric. In the family housing briefing room, a sunlit space with folding tables scarred from years of town halls, the public affairs officer, Captain Reyes, addressed a mixed group, spouses, contractors like Carla Ramirez, and unit reps, the air scented with fresh coffee from a percolator on the sideboard. Elena sat in the back row, Rex lying calmly at her feet, his presence a quiet emblem amid the civilian chatter. Reyes projected the updated safety protocols, her pointer tracing the new K9 clauses. Handlers now authorized for rapid response in lots and common areas. Alerts trigger joint action, security, and medics on sync. Carla, seated up front with Alex fidgeting beside her, raised her hand, voice steady. This came from that day in the lot. Sergeant Vasquez and Rex, they showed the gap. Mia's visits to the kennels. It's building trust, not just rules. Nods circled the room. A mother in the second row adding, "My toddler wanders the playgrounds. Knowing a dog's nose backs us up, changes everything." Elena kept her expression neutral, but the words landed like commendations, her act expanding from personal defiance to communal shield. After the session, Carla approached, Alex trailing with a small backpack, brought Mia's drawing for the morale board. The girl, now fully recovered, had scribbled Rex amid crayons and hearts, her tiny signature a scrawl of innocence. Elena accepted it, tucking it into her pocket. She'll see him run drills soon, therapy certified. The institutional legacy took shape that afternoon in Major Ellis's office, a Spartan room overlooking the parade ground where trainees marched in distant cadence, boots echoing like thunder. Elena reported for her new assignment, instructor lead on cross-training, saluting crisply as Ellis gestured to a chair, the leather creaking under her. Rex settled by the door, eyes tracking the Major's movements. Vasquez, the amendments are doctrine now. Your input shaped the discretion clause, balances the chain with real-world calls. He slid a folder across the desk. Commendation papers crisp and official, Rex's name etched alongside hers. Exemplary response. Life preserved. Dog gets the plaque in the hall. You, mentorship rotation, starting with Hale's teams. She scanned the documents, the weight of transformation settling in her chest. Not triumph, but the quiet forge of integrity into policy. Thank you, sir. Unit cohesion first. Ellis leaned back, his eagles glinting under the desk lamp. It is. Your stand tested us, proved the system's flexible where lives demand it. Ramirez's endorsement sealed the optics. Families are writing command. This ripples to other posts. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the helipads where Blackhawks idled, rotors still, the hum of readiness underscoring the base's enduring vigilance. Evening brought the personal ripple in the Ramirez quarters, where laughter mingled with the sizzle of burgers on a portable grill, the scent of charcoal smoke drifting through the open screen door. Elena arrived off duty, Rex on a short lead, greeted by Alex's whoop and Mia's toddling steps toward the dog, her small hands patting his muzzle with gleeful slaps. Staff Sergeant Ramirez flipped patties with tongs, nodding her in. "Neighborly thanks, Vasquez. Protocol saved my girl. Now it's saving others." Carla set plates on a picnic table, the wood scarred from family barbecues. The new rules. Briefings say K9 teams patrol lots weekly. No more gray zones. As they ate, the conversation wove through ranks and routines. Javier joining via video call from a logistics outpost, his face pixelated but smile clear. Proud Elena, sons asking when Rex visits. The boy, back home, waved from the screen, the normalcy a balm against the institutional grind. Rex lay under the table, accepting scraps of burger with polite sniffs, his loyalty extending effortlessly to the circle. Alex sketched nearby, adding Elena to his drawing, a handler and dog, united in crayon lines, a child's vision of the bond that had redefined duty. In the detachment hall that night, under the soft glow of overhead bulbs, the plaque gleamed on the wall. Rex, K9 Unit 3, Guardian of the Unseen. Elena traced the engraving with a fingertip, the metal cool, handlers passing with quiet respect, Torres pausing to salute, Ruiz murmuring, legacy etched. Hale approached last, his posture relaxed fractionally, clipboard traded for a coffee mug. Drills run smoother now. Your lead tomorrow, show 'em the balance. No more distance, just the chain's flow, reformed by one act's moral courage. As the base quieted, rotors fading to whispers and lights dimming in barracks windows, Elena walked Rex along the perimeter trail, the gravel path silvered by moonlight, pines sighing in the breeze. The defiance that began in a sun-baked lot had woven conscience into command, her integrity a symbol etching quiet reform across the ranks, proving that true loyalty bent the system toward the lives it swore to protect. In the end, discipline found its deeper strength in the unwavering gaze of a handler and her dog, a legacy of compassion etched into the heart of the chain. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of She Can't Breathe. The brother yelled. The K9 found her in the back of an overheated car. See you in the next one.